Hello, good evening. Welcome to the nightly news bulletin here on your Joy News channel on Multi TV. And coming up in the next 30 minutes, Speaker of Parliament directs Gender Committee to expedite work towards passage of affirmative action bill as hundreds of women march in the northern regional capital to demand action on the bill. Meanwhile, Vice Chairperson of Parliament's Select Committee on Gender is advocating that men who are assaulted by their spouses turn the other cheek instead of hitting back. Also ahead, Speaker of Parliament Professor Michael Quay insists he's simply going by the rules in denying the leader of the opposition a chance to ask follow-up questions. And later in the bulletin, are you a Christian? Do you shy away from politics? Second Deputy Speaker of Parliament Alban Badbin has a word for you. We have details of all these and more in this half-hour bulletin. Please stay with us.
Nightly News Headlines was brought to you by Number 10 Liver Salt.
Many thanks for joining us. My name is ERNEST. Manu. Let's settle for the details now, and we begin right here because former Gender, Children and Social Protection Minister Nana Oyelita says Parliament has no excuse this time round not to pass the affirmative action bill into law. Speaking on Joy News Current Affairs show PM Express, Nana Oyelita told Aisha Ibrahim that there's an urgent need for the bill to be passed into law, adding it is an obligation of the state to ensure its passage.
It should have been passed yesterday. I mean, like, it's very, very urgent because we should not forget that Ghana was the first African country to pass an affirmative action law under Osajifo Dr. Kwame Nkrumah when he brought 10 women into Parliament. And so we have led history. So why are we where we are? Fortunately, we started the process and there was a working group, and we now have a bill, and we're also calling on President Nana Akufo-Addo to ensure that this bill is passed. It would help a lot. The good thing is that we've had a lot of women in public office over a decade or so. Within public office, women have been tried and tested, and all these women that I'm mentioning have excelled. They have done very well. And when you look at the Constitutional Review report, it was also a recommendation. The white paper that came out of it, there was also that recommendation. And in 1992, even in the Constitution of Ghana, that was an obligation on the state to ensure that within a reasonable time we have this law. It will correct an imbalance.
What were the reasons why, or what were the challenges that did not allow the bill to be passed into law before you left office?
Yes, we pushed very hard. We pushed very hard, but then there were other bills that had come before before our bill. So we did push hard, but maybe it was time.
It didn't
happen. Yes, it didn't.
Meanwhile, Nana Oyelita wants the Gender Ministry to turn its attention to access to pornography as part of measures to deal with domestic violence.
Access to pornography and the extent to which this has links with what is happening in terms of gender-based violence, what is happening in terms of defilement and rape and the other sexual forms of violence, and even we also talked about the films. So these are all issues that we need to look at. But very importantly is also the issue of resources, financial resources for the institutions, for the Domestic Violence and Victim Support Unit. And it's grown to be a key institution for protection of women's rights and for ensuring that we are able to enforce gender rights. And we need the financial resources for the Domestic Violence and Victim Support Unit.
In a related development, women groups in the northern region have appealed to government to, as a matter of urgency, passed the affirmative action bill into law. The women who marched through the principal streets of the capital, Tamale, said the bill, when passed, will address peculiar issues of access to land, business, credit and home care. In June 2016, the bill received cabinet assent and has since been tabled before Parliament awaiting passage. Correspondent Hashmin Mohammed was at the march and has come through with this report.
The women marched through some principal streets of Tamale amidst drumming and dancing. They held placards with messages on the need to pass the affirmative action bill. They finally converged at the Northern Regional Coordinating Council, where they presented their petition to the Northern Regional Minister, Salifu Said, for onward submission to the President. They stated, among other concerns, that though women constitute 50% of the population of Ghana, they are underrepresented in decision-making in all the important sectors of the economy, including the agricultural sector. Madam Awulatu Yusuf read the petition.
Recognizing the fact that women are largely disadvantaged and marginalized in Ghana in terms of voice, visibilities, and social recognition. 2, affirming that women have peculiar issue with access to land, business credits, home care, and space in policy decision-making at all levels of constraint on time due to the workloads.
Northern Regional Minister Salifu Said, who received the petition on behalf of the President, said government is committed to the welfare of women and their concerns will be addressed by the President.
Let me reassure you that His Excellency, we all know when they are talking about the legal brains in this country, he's first among equals. So therefore, he understands the angle from which you are coming. He appreciates your call, and he will also see what he can do so that this call will become a reality.
The affirmative action bill, when passed into law, would provide legally mandated systems and policies to ensure women's equal participation.
And that was Hashmin Mohammed's report read to you. While it appears the legislature had the appeal by the women in the North. Earlier on Thursday, Speaker Professor Michael Quaid directed the Gender Committee of Parliament to follow up and ensure that government lays the affirmative action bill for consideration of the House. He issued the directive as Parliament joined the rest of the world to observe International Women's Day.
Think, for example, that there is an affirmative action bill before this Honorable House. This is not correct, as at today. Honorable Minister, if you please give me an ear, this is not correct, as at today. And we will ask and we will direct the committee responsible for gender to follow up and ensure that this bill touches this House in a matter of days, because of the public comment, as it is Parliament that is not doing anything. But there is nothing before us, and we want this to really come before us, and within days. It's worth saying, I direct that the Women Caucus of Parliament and the Gender Committee, no matter the rudimentary nature of whatever first came before the House before it was taken back, should take and start seriously analyzing, studying, and making proposals which should be what Parliament thinks of the process. After all, we can take joint control and ensure that there's an affirmative action act. So please let us set this joint body rolling immediately, even before anything should touch this Honorable House, showing our own capacity to be proactive in issues of legislation that concern all of us. And we definitely want to make positive recommendations, because I've had the occasion to comment that what we had before was a list of suggestions and hopeful wishes rather than positive legislation that will be an instrument for social engineering. And these we must seriously consider.
We stay with Parliament and the Speaker a while longer because Professor Michael Quaye has brushed off claims of bias by the minority, saying he has been impartial. The minority on Wednesday went on a silent protest after its leader, Haruna Idrisu, was denied the opportunity to ask further questions. Now, the matter came up again today on the floor of the House when the minority leader failed in his attempt to ask the Health Minister more questions. Shortly, we'll hear from the Speaker, but first, we'll bring you a report cataloging some of the incidents the minority is basing its claim of bias on. While the governing party has an overwhelming majority, the minority hardly wins a debate. All it does is to have its say, but it appears the minority and the Speaker, Michael Quaye, is not having enough of that. At least that's what they have articulated publicly, a situation which has resulted in a frosty relationship between the minority and the Speaker. The so-called disagreements between the Speaker and the minority may have started in July 2017.
It is important that the Speaker respects the front bench of the minority. Why do you want to couple us? You have to give us space to be able to put our views. Mr. Speaker, you cannot stifle the space for the minority leadership. Mr. Speaker, yesterday, the day before yesterday, there were questions that were supposed to be asked yesterday in this House. They were not on the other paper. You didn't give us the opportunity to raise them. Yesterday, we advertised. There were questions to be asked today again. They've not been put on the other paper. You are not giving us the opportunity to even air our views. Why?
Alhaji Muntaka is not the only one who is upset with the Speaker. His boss, the majority leader, Haruna Idrisu himself, has had cause to complain about the conduct of Professor Michael Quaye.
Mr. Speaker, when I rose, you know the essence of parliamentary question is significant and integral to the exercise of oversight. Your refusal to allow me, even as minority leader, to proceed can only be an effort to stifle oversight. How you did?
In fact, on February 15, 2018, Haruna Idrisu almost sounded disrespectful to the third most powerful man in the country.
I stood up before the majority leader. You owe me that courtesy and that respect. You owe me that courtesy and that respect. Mr. Speaker, you cannot, even after hearing him, you were still not decided whether to hear me or not. All I'm voted to do here is to speak, and as minority leader, to speak to the rules. May I respectively, I'm not here to talk about Kojo. May I draw your attention to Order 130 and why I was on my feet. And I'm within the rules. And Order 130 reads, if any member... Order 130. 130. 130. Rules. Mr. Speaker, you owe me. I don't want to ever disrespect you. But if you invite me, I will. If you invite me, I will. Yes, I will. No.
These developments have caused the minority to raise questions about the impartiality of the Speaker. So is Speaker Michael Quaye being too high-handed with the minority, or we simply have a recalcitrant minority in Parliament? Well, the Speaker has denied sidelining the minority, explaining he was only going by the rules of the House. Listen.
To get a clarification to Order 69. It's in relation to supplementary questions. Mr. Speaker, I can understand with leadership, we can vary Order 69 to let this get through. But it becomes almost a norm that we cannot ask supplementary questions on constituency-specific questions. I just want to know from you if it's a new order, so that we all know that we can't do it, or so that we ignore Order 69. If I can read it.
Order 69 does not exclude the decision of this House, which you know very well was the same policy procedure during the immediate past Parliament's term, and which was adopted by the House. And it applies across the board. It is most improper to come to the House when we've all agreed on matters of procedure and then give the impression that somebody is being discriminated against. That is not so. And anybody who was in the past Parliament will know that is what prevailed. And it was adopted. In fact, that's not how I started. But it was so adopted. All leaders in this honorable House know that that which the Speaker is now saying is the decision of leadership.
And you're watching the Nightly News Bulletin here on your Joy News channel on Multi TV. Politics is often described as a dirty game. The reason why many, particularly staunch Christians, refuse to venture. Second Deputy Speaker of Parliament, Alban Badbin, is however urging Christians to do away with that misconception and rather take up political roles. Speaking at the first Bible and Governance Conference organized by the Parliamentary Christian Ministry and the Ministry of Religious and Chieftaincy Affairs, Mr. Badbin said Christians with clean hearts and honest intentions should actively get involved in politics.
Involved in active politics has become an important issue of discussion, as many as possible have very divergent views on the subject. But recent events have raised the question once again and asked why the church is not partnering the state and why Christians are avoiding politics. You know, so many people, as stated by the bishop, are questioning why clean hearts, honest beings, should get themselves beddled in partisan politics, what they usually refer to as a dirty game. Well, what I keep on saying is that it's not a game that is dirty, but it's the people that are playing the game that are dirty. And so when you get the cleaner people inside, definitely politics will become clean. And so for this reason alone, I think it's good for us Christians to get actively involved in politics. Clearly that the place for all of you to be is in politics. Politics does not necessarily mean partisan politics. Partisanship connotes division. But politics actually is about consensus building.
Politics. Let's do stories about women as we celebrate International Women's Day. And women continue to shine at various workplaces in spite of the challenges they are confronted with on a daily basis. Most of these women juggle work with family responsibilities, which leave most of them overwhelmed. Now, one of such women is 38-year-old Abigail Darko, who works at an accountant firm in Accra. Abigail is a nursing mother who carries her 10-month-old baby to work every single day. Ifwa Evans Chimney caught up with her at her office in Accra and now reports.
There is currently the maternity protection
Tell us about how you do this, carrying your baby at your back to work every day.
Yes, every day. Most of the time, I do this when my mom is not around. I have her, she comes in and go, and I don't have a house help, so I do this often.
Where do you live?
I live in Kasua.
What time do you get to work and what time do you get off work?
Okay, I'm supposed to be at work at 8. So roughly between 8:30, I should be here. So I have to leave home as early as 5:15, 5:30, I should be off from home. Because of where I live and where I work, there is traffic, so I have to set off early so that I will be able to make the time.
And how long have you been doing this? Don't you get overwhelmed sometimes?
I do, but you have no option. You have to work and you have to take care of the kids as well. So you just have to get more energy and then roll on, yeah.
How many children do you have?
I have 5.
Okay, and your last child is how old?
She's 10 months old, and the eldest is 11 years old.
And you have the support of your husband. Doesn't your husband complain? So how does he take all this?
He doesn't complain. Actually, he supports me a lot because for him, bringing food to the table too matters a lot. And if he's going to carry all on his shoulders, you know, there wouldn't be peace. So at least I just have to manage, and sometimes he supports me. Yeah.
You must also have an understanding boss, because most bosses won't allow this.
Yes, for that one is very true. I have a very great boss, because this wouldn't be possible if he doesn't allow it. Yes, and he understands every situation. Whatever you get into at a point, you only have to explain to him or tell him. When you do, he's always there for you.
So following cases like that, Amnesty International is calling for an extended maternity leave for pregnant women. According to the rights body, women should be given at least 6 months away from work to stay with their newborns. During a panel discussion earlier on Thursday, some gender advocates, however, agreed the call might not be laudable.
There is currently the Maternity Protection Convention 2000, the ILO Convention number 183, that seeks to empower women, especially pregnant women and nursing mothers. Out of this, Ghana has gone a long way. As we speak, we have the Maternity Protection Bill that has gone through Cabinet. It's been approved. So we will lay it before Parliament. And we will get.
Shall we know what's in it that's different from what we already know?
What in it is different? The Convention 183 is advocating a minimum of 14 weeks as maternity leave. 14 weeks. Currently, we are running a 12 weeks maternity.
So adding 2 more weeks?
Well, that is what the 183 is advocating. And Ghana, in the new bill that we are seeking to introduce, at least we've gone with the minimum, so that at least we give chances. If you also look at Section 55 of our Labor Act, we've really empowered nursing mothers and our women. And to the extent that if even you give birth to twins, and most women don't even know this, you give birth to 2 or more children, you're entitled to more days of maternity leave. I'm not sure some of you know these things, but that is it. It is in our law. And because, you know, most people don't know what is in the law, they live with the status quo. Indeed, Hosea 4 verse 6, Bible says, for lack of knowledge, you are perishing. So it is important that for Section 55 alone of the Labor Act, all women, and Gifty, take that upon yourself. And on your program at Joy, educate the women to know their rights, especially when they are pregnant, or when they even 2, 3, 4 months, when they realize they are pregnant, and they get certification from even a midwife. Your employer must adhere to some of these things that are part of the law. So we are seeking to do this. The other one is the domestic worker bill.
Sorry to budget, but before you go on, how soon or how quickly is this new law supposed to,
I may not be able to give you exact time. That we hope to ensure that within the life of this parliament, this comes to pass. Some of these things that bother women. Let me be frank with you. We have a parliament that is very male-dominated. You know, so some of the, like the spousal bills and all, when they come, it depends on the eye that looks, you know, at it. But hopefully, even the affirmative action bill, I was invited when they were doing the drafting stages. It's not easy. You look at some of the things in there, you reflect on it, and if there's a committee looking at it and we are 20, about 12 are men. You know, so when we think, oh, as for this one, no, it will cripple men. And we do.
Now, just before we go, the Vice Chairperson of Parliamentary Select Committee on Gender, Abna Dura Mensah, has admonished men to refrain from actions which seeks to retaliate a slap or physical assault by women. Now, according to her, women are weaker vessels but quick-tempered, and for that matter, under no circumstance should a man beat a woman, even in retaliation. She's urging them to find an amicable way of resolving issues rather than getting physical. She spoke to Adom News' Alfred Amo at a women empowerment program held at Asin Fosu in the Central Region as part of the International Women's Day celebration.
Men too, please don't let your wives beat you, I beg you. If they hit you small, just pamper them or talk to them nicely. Someone will say that his wife slapped him, so he also retaliated with the same thing. It's not healthy. If the woman slaps you on one cheek, like the Bible said, you turn the other cheek for her. Or worse still, just report to some elders or the police, and then for matters to be settled. And then also, oh, well, when it gets to the worst, you're also a human being. If you're a man, you're a human being, also have rights. So if it gets to the worst and you see that it's really getting out of hands, you can report the matter to the police for the police to help to help settle matters amicably for you.
Some advice for you there, men, but how does that work? Anyway, that's how we end the bulletin here on today Nightly News Bulletin. My name is ERNEST. Please log on to myjoyonline.com for more news.